Yo, what's going on? It's your man Rick the Dawn, and I just saw Until Dawn. Now, if you don't know, Until Dawn is based off of a PS4 game, and I remember playing Until Dawn, a great game, by the way. And to sum it up, it was about some teenagers who went to a cabin in the woods, if you will, and they're soon stalked by this gigantic character who is picking them off one by one. We soon, or I should say later, learned that this big towering figure was actually a prank set forth by one of the people within the teen group. But we also learned that actually there is some real danger, despite this big figure setting up all these fake deaths and stuff like that. There is a actual death element within the woods themselves, and these particular creatures are called wendigos or something like that. And they're basically these morphed creatures, and I forget how they got that way. I want to say radiation or something happened that caused the people within this town to turn into these monstrosities. And your job as the video game player is to get all of your characters through this terrible, situation. So they created a movie based off of this, and great idea actually. But it turns out that the movie does not follow the game too much. Now they do have some elements from the game, like the Wendigos, the little creatures or what have you. But overall, not much really comes from the game into the movie. Now that I think about it, not much at all. Not the characters, nothing. So as far as the movie is concerned, we have 5 characters, and they all are basic archetypes. You have the heroine, you have the jokester, you got the couple, you know what I mean? You got everybody there, basically. And the main protagonist, female, Clover is her name. She had a sister who went on this pilgrimage or journey, and she never returned. So Clover and her friends set out to find out what happened to Clover's sister, essentially. And that leads them to a random house, and it's easily a place you would want to avoid because they're driving on this pathway, and the rain is so heavy that you can't even see through the windshield. And they get to this point where they cross into a driveway. I'm not sure what you call it, but they cross past this space in which the rain stops, and it's a really cool phenomenon because on this side, you have a house and a little yard, and it's clear. But just aside that, it is raining heavily. So it's like this two-world phenomenon. Like on one side, it's raining heavily, but once you cross through this rain curtain, everything is pretty clear on the side. So they're driving through a rainy rainforest. They clear this rain curtain, and all of a sudden, everything has stopped raining. But they can still see the rain if they just look. The rain is still there. Okay, and their first inclination is to go inside the house that happens to be on the clear side. So they go inside the house and they see that this house is in pristine condition. They find a hourglass on the wall, and I'll be honest with you, it looks like a 24-hour glass or a 12-hour glass. They find that on the wall, and they also notice that the house, like I said, is in clean and pretty pristine condition. They also find a sign-in booklet, and the sign-in booklet has the names of everybody who ever visited this house, despite it looking extremely clean. And they see that Clover's sister was once there and signed into the book. One of the other characters, he goes into the bathroom and he sees that there's a ton of missing people signs on the wall, and one of those missing people was Clover's sister. So this sets off a ton of different events where, like, wait a minute, was Clover's sister here? And if so, where is she at now? And it starts to get dark outside, and before you know it, this huge towering character, who was greatly inspired by the huge towering character from the game, goes around and just basically kills them all in very, very bloody fashion. And it's at this point they all wake up as if time reversed itself, and they realize, wait a minute, weren't you just killed? I saw you, And they soon realize that they're in this game, and basically they have to survive until dawn. All right, and if they survive until dawn, they'll be allowed to exit the game. But as they go through this entire process of trying to understand the game and what's happening to them, they're uncovering several mysteries. One of those mysteries is that there is a overseer of this game, and he has all the answers. In fact, he is the same guy that they talk to first when they go to the gas station and ask for directions. And Clover even asks this gas attendant or owner, gas station owner, hey, have you seen this lady before? And he kind of gives her a cryptic answer like, hey, you're not the first person to ask, have I seen anybody? And she's like, wait, so people go missing here all the time? He's like, well, not here at the gas station, but up the street on Gloryville, whatever, that's where it all happens. And that's what causes the teens to drive there through the rain and all that stuff. They also realize that that tall giant maniac is not the only person that they have to watch out for. You have every type of monster from every popular franchise in this one place. I mean, the best way that I can explain it is imagine the top 20 monsters from all films being trapped in a isolated island, and then you put 5 people there and tell them to survive for 24 hours. That's basically the premise of the movie. And it draws heavily. I mean, I felt like this is borderline copyright infringement. They borrow heavily from Cabin in the Woods. In the same way that Cabin in the Woods stops at the gas station first before they go to the cabin, that happened here. In the same way that Cabin in the Woods had all these relics in the cabin that if touched, that would unearth that particular monster, that happened here. The only difference is with Until Dawn, nothing in particular had to be touched to set off that particular monster. It just seemed to do so automatically, which brings up another important point. After they die, they basically restart from the beginning where, Clover's ex-boyfriend pulls her in from the rain. Like everything resets. But every time that it resets, there's a new element or a new layer of danger that wasn't there prior. And we also learn from the overseer of the game that every time they reset, 2 things happen. They get closer to never being able to leave the game, or they get closer to turning into Wendigos, the same Wendigos from the video game. Now, if you don't know what a Wendigo is, well, join the club. Nobody does. But within the movie and game, they describe them as these figures or monstrosities that used to be human, but via some type of manipulation have turned into basically cannibals. All right. And they don't have any understanding or sense. And I think they might even be deaf. Like they can only see like vision echoes, like echoes of movement, but not necessarily sound. I forget how it works. But nevertheless, every time that this group of 5 people die, they come back and they see parts of their body starting to change. They see that now they're growing in extra fangs. They see that they have weird crippling things going on with their spine, right? Because that's what the Wendigos are. They like these disfigured human beings. And they see that every time they reset, they're becoming closer and closer to becoming Wendigos. And they see that within this booklet of past visitors or people who've been to this house and went through the same process. They see that no one has gotten more than 13 tries to get out of this place. So, they go through all these sequences and die in all these different ways. And I have to give them credit for one thing. They do one thing extremely well. They extremely well scare the crap out of you, okay? I don't know how else to say it. I'm not someone that is easily scared, or you can't scare. Matter of fact, I'm not scared. You can't scare me at all. I think from 1 to 10, as far as my fear rating, it's like a 0, okay? But I will be honest here. There were points in this movie I said, look, if I was a person who was genuinely afraid of scary movies, this would terrify me. Not scare me. I want to be very clear about this. If you're somebody who does not do well with scary movies, this would not scare you, it would terrify you, because there was several instances where the kills were extremely gruesome. All right, there were some scenes in here I'm like, wait, is PlayStation or Sony okay with, this being a part of their franchise? Because this is extremely gory, okay? We're not talking about kind of gory here. Some of the stuff they were showing. And there were some scenes within the film where the tension was revved up to 1,000. I would say the scariest part by far within this movie was when Clover, I think this was their second or third try to get through this place. Clover is pulled into this witch's house, and the witch is sitting in a chair rocking, and the cameraman did an amazing job with kind of like panning in front of her so you can see what she looked like. And I'll kind of leave it there. Like that whole witch segment, it was terrifying. Okay, and then Clover's boyfriend eventually goes after her, and he goes upstairs and he finds like a little clown in a rocking chair. Like it was terrifying. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It was terrifying. But I was cool with it. I'm like, it is what it is. But I'm like, if I was someone who was terrified or scary when it comes to scary movies, this would terrify the crap out of me. I'm telling you right now. Like the last time I've been scared, like genuinely scared, during a scary movie, I would say maybe Sinister. Like, I don't know if you know what that is. Like, Sinister was a genuinely scary movie, okay? But I wasn't scared. I was more entertained, for the record. I was more entertained. But I was like, if I was a scary person or someone who was scared during horror films, Sinister is, man, this is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. But no, I was more entertained. But as far as genuinely being scared, it was like one time where my mother had let me stay with my auntie. And for whatever reason, my auntie left me in the house by myself because that's what black families do, right? They leave their kids home alone. So my mother let me stay with my auntie. I don't know why she would do that anyway, but my auntie left me there by myself. And for whatever reason, what is it called? Nightmare on Elm Street, like part 3 came on. And when I heard that music on that TV, and mind you, I'm in the house by myself. Mind you, the basement is right there. I'm like, yo, I turned that TV off so dang on fast, man. Like, that's the last time. And I was probably about 5 or 6. That's the last time. I know my people were terrible. I was about 5 or 6. And that's the last time I was terrified. Not scared, by the way. Terrified at a scary movie. But I've since kind of overcome that. But it's funny because there's some residual stuff there. Like, I still don't really watch Nightmare on Elm Street. And I think I need to watch it. I need to kind of like put that behind me. But it's just something about Freddy that was like terrifying for me. Like I had a strong and respectful like fear of Freddy. And I tell myself like, I'm not scared of Freddy now. I kind of need to watch those films to prove it. I've watched maybe of all the Freddy films, I've probably watched about 5. So I feel like I've already kind of crossed that bridge. But I kind of need to watch it from like 1 to whatever the number is because I want to make sure that I've conquered this particular mountain. But nevertheless, this movie has some very genuine scares in it, and yeah. But towards the end, it started to kind of fall into the typical tropes of horror films. They get to their final life, their 13th life, and they come to the conclusion that they don't know if they'll get another chance. Now, one of the coolest parts of this film was because they all regenerated, sometimes they all killed themselves strategically. All right, it might have been a situation in which like one of them died and they didn't want to leave anybody behind. So they said, hey, we all have to go because we can't leave Samantha behind. We have to go back and reset this whole thing so that we can maybe get through this and bring her out and stuff, make her a survivor. But again, it starts to fall into the usual tropes. Everybody gets out alive. And I was like, really? Like nobody? Okay, got it. Everything starts to happen very conveniently. All of a sudden, the Wendigos are running slower. All of a sudden, the monsters are killable. It kind of falls into the usual tropes. And yeah, kind of steals a little bit from the experience. I don't know what it is about filmmakers, but they are extremely afraid to commit to the true endings of what should happen. I'm not sure if the stars put this kind of stuff in their contracts, but I'm trying to figure out how that works because if Denzel Washington, arguably the greatest actor of this generation, if he is okay with dying in Training Day or Gladiator 2, if he's okay with dying, who else we talking about? Because some of these people should not have made it through. All right, so that was very confusing. But I'm going to kind of reserve a little bit for you to see on your own. I've kind of spoiled a little bit of what happens. I said they all survive, but how they survive, I haven't really talked about that. And I do want to leave that open for you to discover on your own. But overall, I thought it was a pretty decent film. I would give it a 7, and probably will be the last time I see it. I don't need to see it again. Again, mainly due to the ending. And as far as the game is concerned, I thought that it did a pretty decent job with, being a video game property. Typically, these kind of movies absolutely suck. This one was not one of those. All right. So that's it. I just saw Until Dawn. It was decent. It was extremely terrifying in the middle, but there's a point at the end where it kind of loses all of its tension because they're allowing stuff to happen to save the 5 characters. All right, peace.